Hello guys, welcome to class 3 of the ACI 14 course on Lojong. We already finished one Lojong, probably the most famous one in the world, the 8 verses, which His Holiness the Dalai Lama usually teaches when he teaches Lojong as well, Geshe-la said. And today class 3 is going to be another one, and we're going to go through about 5-6 Lojongs in this course 14. Class 4 and 5 will be a very famous Lojong and with a lot of information. This class 3 is a little bit shorter than the other ones, but the original classes from Geshe-la were with our translation also about 1.5 hours, close to 2 hours. So the Lojong we're going to do today is actually from the Kagya tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and at the point when Lojongs developed, at the point when Lojong and Buddhism came into Tibet, all the traditions were close together. As you know, we are not intending to teach Kagya or Nyingma or Sakya tradition. Our hope is that we can pass on one consistent lineage from the Buddha to the present day, and we want you to learn and study Buddhism that is coherent and internally consistent from the Buddha up to our current Root Lama Geshe Michael Roach. And the Gelugpa lineage that we are passing on due to Geshe-la is a pure lineage that works, and you will be able to reach enlightenment and the most incredible spiritual goals that you can imagine with these practices. But at the time, and in Tibet there are other perfect lineages that work as well, but it's a very good idea to make kind of a historical photograph when the Lojongs came to Tibet, because at that time the Sakya, the Nyingma and the Kagya and the Gelugpa tradition, they were all close together and started out from that one point. So we are introducing a Kagya Master to you, a Kagya Master, and this is idiom number 1. From now on we're going to also mention the idioms even more in the class. And his name was Yang Gumpa. His dates are 1213 to 1258. And he is one of the founding fathers of the Drukpa Kagya tradition. So inside the Kagya tradition, there are sub-traditions like the Drukpa Kagya or the Kama Kagya, and these are different types of Kagya. The word Druk from Drukpa refers to a monastery, so it's a location. And because we're never allowed to refer to a teacher or lama without an honorific, they called him Gyalva Yang Gumpa, which basically means Gyalva is the victorious one, so they saw him as a Buddha. And you're going to get a collection of his teachings today, one Lojong and 2 other summary of points that can form the whole practice. Now, before we go into the first one, which is going to be called Dam Ngak, which means personal advices, which kind of refers to that there are instructions passed on from a teacher to a student, maybe at a bonfire in the evening, or when you're in the car driving them from one DCI event to the other, or something like that. And these personal advices are very often given in a limited setting to very close disciples, where the teacher just tells them a summary, which can be very powerful. But it also implies, as we're going to see today again, that you cannot teach those Lojongs and those teachings to someone without an explanation, because it will just confuse people. Before we go into the Dam-nyak, the first Lojong from Gyalva Chang Gumpa, we of course look into his lineage and his teachers as well, and there were 2 famous ones. One of them was the famous Sakya Pandita, about 1200 after Christ, one of Tibet's greatest lamas. And he was the Sakya Pandita's nephew, Pakpa. He brought Buddhism to Mongolia, and he became the teacher of Kublai Khan, which was a grandchild, I think, of Genghis Khan. And he also met the strange Italian dude there, whose name is Marco Polo. So if you want to check out the series on Netflix, I'm not sure you're going to see Sakya Pandita's nephew there, but you meet Marco Polo at least. And the other one of the teachers from Gyalva Chang Gumpa was Gu Tsangpa, who is another great and famous Lojong teacher. And so now we're going to get into the first of his verses in English. I'll just read them, and then we talk about the difficult points of that. And at the end of this first 2 verses, we can go already into idiom 2. Let's look at it. What is the famous Buddha Gyalvachanggumpa saying? He says, "Nothing that starts remains unchanged. Have no attachment, cut the ties. There is no happiness in this vicious circle. Get tired of it, find renunciation. The world is hollow and meaningless. Do not trust the lie. Your own mind is the Buddha. Go and meet your friend." Wow, that's, compared to 365 pages of ACI 13 and reading, that's pretty consistent. It's like chuck, chuck, chuck. Very short information, nearly in a proverb, but definitely in a poetic form. And one of the reasons I think why this is such a beautiful Lojong, because you also see the difficulty of this teaching style. Meaning, you have to have studied a couple of years and really got into emptiness before you hear something like that and can use it. And we'll go into the last verse, which is idiom number 2 now. You must have a Lama around you to explain it to you. Because the last two lines are saying, right, your own mind is the Buddha, go and meet your friend. You cannot, and I say it very clearly and loud hopefully, you cannot go around thinking that your mind is the Buddha. Okay? It is not true. You need someone to explain it to you. If you feed this to students, the new student who has not studied much, they're thinking, oh great, my mind is the Buddha, I'm going into the corner and I'm just, reveal my true nature by brushing off a little bit and the Buddha comes out. And then a couple of weeks later they get hit by a car and they end up in a hell realm. So we have to understand that that is the first thing we need to clarify. What does he mean when he says your own mind is the Buddha? And this is a famous and I think very often incorrectly, wrongly understood term, which is Buddha nature. What do we mean when we say Buddha nature? It is not something inside of us that is the Buddha already and we just need to scrub it and then it comes out. What Buddha nature means, so you don't think you have a Buddha in you and you just need to, play around a little bit and that's it. What it means is that just like this thing is a chewing toy or a pen, when in essence at the bottom of it is a cylinder, is empty of having any nature of being either the pen or the chewing toy. It depends, and we would even say it comes from the observer. So is your own mind. The emptiness of your mind is the only Buddha nature that you have right now. And the fact that this thing here, the pen or the chewing toy, can be either, makes it, number one, so easy to become a dog. Because if you die and see this as a chewing toy, seeing it as a chewing toy is what makes you a dog. And number two, the emptiness of your own mind is why it is so incredibly dangerous to die. Because when you die, your mind completely dissolves, your body of course stops existing as well. And then a new seed opens, and that seed and nothing else determines how your new mind is going to look like. So your mind is like the pen, in essence. And presently, if you're a human, which I don't know, especially I cannot see you, but even if I would see you, it would be difficult for me to tell. But if you're a human, then our mind is forced to experience this bizarre mixture of happiness and sadness. I'm such a good example for this while I'm teaching logic, it's incredible. Goodness and evil, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, up, down, in, out, all over the place. We are forced to perceive our mind like that way. If we had collected better karma, if I had collected better karma, I would be forced by that karma to perceive my mind as the mind of an enlightened being. And if I had been taking care of my vows better, 16 books, right? I love that photo. It reminds me of who I can become eventually. If we had taken care of our vows better and treated our lamas and all living beings better, a couple of lives past, then I would already be forced to perceive my mind like that. So our mind is nothing from its own side. Not only our body, not only the objects around us, not only the people around us, but even our own minds, the thoughts running through our head, the capability of loving someone else, the capability of understanding emptiness or not, comes from seeds. And that is the only Buddha nature that we have. So when he is saying, when the holy Kagya Lama Gyalva Yangumpa is saying that your own mind is the Buddha, go meet your friend, be careful. It means that your own mind is empty, and if you understood Buddha nature and you would have kept your mouth perfectly, within a short time you would be forced to see your mind as the mind of a Buddha. That's all. But if you put this verse without explanation into hands from an unexperienced American, Geshe-la says, I'm adding an unexperienced Austrian, Ukrainian, Russian or Kazakh, then without the Lama explaining it and teaching it, then it's really dangerous. So be careful when you pass on these things. Let's go to the next one. And that will be Idim 3 in a moment as well. Next verse. Nothing but the Dharma means anything at all. Throw the rest out like trash. It all boils down to dying. Pack light and take off now. What it means is basically that as long as we have to die, the fact that we must die means that when that day happens, you cannot take anything with you except the seeds that you have planted. In other words, try to get on the path of enlightenment as fast as you can. Now the question that comes up when you think about that, and that is part of that verse as well, is what is the test? Is there any way of knowing what's the right thing to do? What is it that I should throw out and what should I not throw out in order to get on this journey of perfection as quickly as possible? And the answer is very simply, and it's here in the verses also. You have to apply, and we all have to learn to apply the test of death to every action that we undertake. Meaning, when you're planning to do something in the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year, but even the next moment, you have constantly to ask yourself, if I die tonight at 6 o'clock, would I be doing what I'd be doing or would I do something else? A person practicing Lojong must ask that nearly every question. And when you feel satisfied, it becomes an automatic barometer of whether you're spending your life well or not. It also means, and that's my own experience for sure, that you're going to have to give up a lot of things that you're used to. So in this class, Geshe Michael refers to that. He said people were bugging him about, why don't you do the financial report, you're going to lose $1 million, and he said, sorry, I don't have time, I have to do my meditation in the morning 1 hour, and then I have to do my practice, I have to do my studying. And again, from my own personal experience, not from scriptures, when you start to act that way, there is a lot of resistance from your friends, family, culture, society, because the whole world is living completely different and people will think you are crazy. And you have to learn to ignore that. Because one day the whole thing will turn around, and that is the time of death. When they are going to die, or when you die, you will look back and you say, oh my God, thank God I did that. Hopefully you're actually never going to make it. The point of these teachings, right, is to get into Vajrayana, into the Diamond Way, learn even more powerful practices that help us to transform this body and mind in one lifetime into something that cannot die again. But even if you should, looking back, you will say, thank God, at least I learned Lojong and applied it at least to some degree in my life. And other people, if they have not dedicated their lives to a spiritual path and they come to the moment of death, they will think the only person that was sane was you. and what they did was completely useless, because then you're losing everything. You're losing your money, you're losing your friends, you're losing your family, you're losing your body, you're losing your face, your name, your mind, everything is gone when that one karma ends. And so I repeat the verse one more time. Nothing but the Dharma means anything at all. Meaning only the good seeds is something you will carry with you into the future. Throw the rest out like trash. It all boils down to dying, backlight, and take off now. It's a very powerful sentence. And the meaning is, get on the path to enlightenment and judge everything else, every action that you do during the day, by the question, is this going to get me further on the path or not? Is it something I want to do if I have to die tonight or not? Alright. That was the first lojong from our wonderful Gyalpa Gumpa. And then he wrote two other things which we want to share with you. The first one is called the Six Keys of Gyalpa Gumpa. So he wrote 6 key elements of thinking that are super important and that we want to take with us. They're pretty easy, and then the last thing that we're going to hear from him are 5 mental poisons, which we are going to do, and then today's lojong is already finished, so it's going to be a shorter class today. The 6 keys of Gyalpa Chumpa are very simple. I read them to you. Then the first one is, put your death in your heart. This is the key for checking whether your practice is tuned too tight or too loose. Which means what we just mentioned in the verse before. Judge your actions every day, every week, but every moment. Is that what I want to be doing if I have to die tonight? And also judge your actions to see if your practice is too tight, which happens to me a lot, unfortunately, or too light, meaning you're not doing enough. And I had the last days, because I got so excited about this ACI 14, it's such a powerful course, and everyone who is ever going to hear it plants incredible seeds in their mind to be able eventually to reach those goals. And I hope many of you are also going to pass it on after getting through the ACI teacher training courses, which we are also providing. But I've realized the last couple of days that one thing I had to do in order to do a good job is to relax more. Maria and me, we're basically doing nothing else but Dhamma projects. We're just constantly trying to figure out what's the highest thing to do, what's the highest thing to pass on. Obviously with the Kievan group, with you guys, my plan is to finish the 18 ACI courses as soon as possible, because that's a huge karma to pass on, but also for you to receive. Maria is working on the ACIP Gold Club, where we make sure that our teachers don't have any worries about money, at least support them on some level thanks to your help. And we also love the ACIP project so much because we help our friends and students to plant extremely good seeds as well, so that they will be very wealthy and full of abundance. So it's a very good seed. But sometimes when you're doing meditation, yoga, studying, teaching, and nothing else, you can get cramped up. Your old ego, your old mind jumps onto it. You say, do more, don't rest. And then you get grumpy. And when you get grumpy, you cannot plant good seeds. It's mental seeds, and it doesn't matter what you do so much. It does matter what you do out there, but if you don't have a happy state of mind, you're basically poisoning your own unbelievable goodness that you're creating. So put your death in your heart. When you guys are not sure if you should do more or less, or what else you should do, always think, if I would die tonight, would the action that I'm planning to do now for the next weeks, month, or right now, would that be a good one or not? And right now I'm happy to report to you, if I would die today at 6, I would continue to teach this class on a good spot. The second of the 6 keys of Gyalpa Gumpa is, and this is all in the reading, by the way, think of the viper's nest of the problems of this life. This is the key of stopping attachment at the bottom of your heart. And I mentioned that also briefly in the verse before. Every good thing about our life will be stripped away from us. Our friends, family, our money, our possessions, our home, our job, our body, our clothes, our face, our name, and our mind. And therefore, get into a state of mind where you're not working for those things, but we're using every single one of the things that I just mentioned, your home, your body, your money, your clothes, your mind, to create seeds so you can reach a state of enlightenment where it truly can be helpful to every living being. Third, and now it sounds even more like a lojong, let every thought be of what other people need. This is the key for making everything you do the Dharma. Geshe Michael is saying something very cool here. He's saying it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be working in Manhattan in New York City on a diamond company, which he did, right? And you can have a family. But in the back of your mind, you should always be thinking, everything I'm doing, I do for the benefits of others. And if you can have that attitude, that state of mind, then every activity will become the Dharma for you. And controversial on the other side, if you only work with the Dharma, which is what we are doing, but you don't have the thought in your mind, I'm really doing this to help other people, then that apparent Dharma practice is going to fail you and you are not turning everything you do into the Dharma. And that's a danger for all you guys who are going to become ACI teachers or Dharma teachers. While you're doing what you're doing, keep in mind that your attitude, your desire to help other people must be the driving force behind what you're doing. Fourth key, don't think of anything but your teacher. Now, my quality control reminds me again and again that I shouldn't use the word Lama, which is funny because it's just another word for teacher, to be honest, but it has a spiritual connotation, and we don't want to freak people out to think we want them to become part of a new religion. Honestly, we don't care at all. We just found for ourselves, because of, in my case, 13 years of practice and working on this, that you can reach a state of happiness that you cannot even imagine if you apply those ancient wisdom teachings to you. But it doesn't matter if you call yourself, I don't know, whatever religion your parents did is probably a good choice. But use this wisdom, practice them in your mind, and then you will reach those goals. If you call the teacher Lama or Guru or teacher or Rabbi or priest, it doesn't matter, okay? Just try to think. This is the key for turning your mind and theirs into one. In the higher teachings especially, we are saying that if we identify with our teacher more and more and more, and there are a lot of qualities that our teachers should have, which we went through in several of the earlier ACI courses. If you spend your whole day thinking about your teacher, for example, Geshe Michael in my case, serving and communing with them, even when they're not physically close, then sooner or later your mind will turn into the mind of an enlightened being, and that's the whole point of this. So this is a pretty deep and tough one, but think about it and try to use it. Fifth key from Gyalma Jamgum, but this is one that I'm sure is Maria's favorite. I know it is. It's see the world and the people in it as angels. This is the key for stopping the idea that life is an ordinary thing. She's smiling, so I think I was right. If you steadily practice to keep your vows better and better and better, then slowly but surely every object in your life will start to gradually transform, and ultimately the whole world and all the people in it will change into a paradise. How do you start with that? I would say just recognize the fact that it's healthy to stop believing that everything is normal. Usually when we live our life, born in Kiev, born in Moscow, wherever you're born, and then you grow up and there's a certain sad and negative low vibration that makes you think you're normal, you're not special. You're just doing what you're doing, and there are millions of other people who are doing the same thing, and the only cool thing is when you get to a party once in a while, but life is not. This verse is saying, this key is saying, life is not the way it looks like. It's not the way it seems. The more you study, the more you keep your vows, it will slowly be revealed to you that this world is not what you thought it is. There's something strange going on. Many special things are happening around you, which you're probably or maybe not aware of yet, but everything is trying to drag you and get you slowly but surely to enlightenment. The sixth, the last one, and that's where idiom 4 comes in. The sixth key is, that's a mystical one again, that's why it needs an explanation. Whatever comes, make it crystal. Now, this, if you don't explain it, people could go on, run off with drugs and say, yeah, I'm making it crystal, or they go into a lamp shop, I don't know. But what this actually means is that the key for making this, if you do that, it's the key for making this life turn to freedom all by itself. Don't misunderstand this verse, okay? Nirvana, which is a state of no more suffering mind, is not coming automatically. Crystal means that everything is empty. It means that you can only reach nirvana if everything is empty, if you change the seeds that create whatever you're perceiving right now. If you don't do anything, then the seeds that you planted in the past that led you to a suffering human life will continue to lead you to suffering human lives. So nothing happens from itself. We even know that from the 4 laws of karma. If you don't do anything, you can't get a result, right? But what it means is you can reach nirvana if you make great efforts, keep your vows and practice this lojong sweetly. So it's not literally true. And one beautiful example about the emptiness of our mind, right? Because this is referring the sixth point is the emptiness of our mind as well, that everything become perfect and you can reach a perfect next state, is actually mentioned in the last and next section, which is called the 5 mental poisons. So the 5 mental poisons is the 3rd teaching that we get from our Kagya Master, from Gyalpa. The first one were the 3 verses that I read to you, the second one were the 6 keys, and the last thing that we learn from Gyalpa is 5 mental poisons. And I find personally this a beautiful bridge from the last key, which was whatever comes, make it crystal, to the 5 mental poisons, because what the 5 mental poisons mean is that our mental afflictions, ignorance, jealousy, anger, ignorant liking, they are literally poison in our being. If you do the yoga, if you meditate a lot, if you get more and more sensitive, you will feel mental afflictions as physical sensations in your body. It will feel like there's a liquid or a stream, actually they say in a wind, running into your body that creates physical pain when you have a wrong thought. And Geshe-la gives a beautiful example, which is what I'm coming to now, is he said that when he was memorizing things, because his Lama told him memorize these lojongs, and when he was learning them by heart, memorizing them, and then a thought of jealousy would come up, then for a couple of minutes you could not remember what he just learned by heart. So there is a physical aspect of mental afflictions. They are real poison. They ruin our physical health, our intelligence and compassion, and they literally destroy our body and mind. And therefore these 5 poisons are connected, number 1, with what they are, the descriptions of what the mental afflictions are, and what will happen to you if you manage to stop them, if you work hard on them and stop them. And this is idiom number 5, the 5 poisons and the effects of the opposites. So let's go through them. The first one is duchak in Tibetan, and it means ignorant liking. Now, this is a beautiful famous debate that we've had several times in the ACI courses already. Does ignorant liking mean that I'm not allowed to use beautiful things like the flowers, or looking at Maria who is sitting in front of me and helping, or enjoying a good dinner, or being happy after you learned something and you studied a Dharma class? does it mean that the Buddha doesn't want anything? And that's not the case, right? It's not the case that the Buddha doesn't want anything. The Buddha still has bodhicitta, which is the wish of enlightenment to help all living beings, which means in his case, the wish that no one goes to hell and everyone should be happy. What ignorant liking means then is that you want something in such a wrong way that you're prepared to hurt them to get it. And if you hurt someone to get what you want, you basically plant the seed to guarantee that you will not be able to get that thing ever again. If you can overcome this tendency, and we said we're going to name the mental affliction, and what happens if you overcome it? If you overcome this tendency, you come to Deva Tamche, which means you get all the happiness you want, because you refused to like things ignorantly, and therefore cause yourself to lose them. You get anything you want. The place to stay, cars, weather, partners, health, everything will come to you if you stop liking things ignorantly. The second poison is called Shedan, which means disliking things stupidly. It's the other side of the same coin. And here again, even enlightened, perfected beings dislike things like their pre-enlightenment suffering, their own or the suffering of other people's. And here again, it's pretty similar. The test of whether our disliking is ignorant or not depends on whether we would do something to hurt someone in order to get rid of it. And for me, and maybe if you're meditating a lot, you have a similar experience. When I'm meditating and sitting down, and then there's sound outside of me that disturbs me, like a neighbor is being noisy or something, it can trigger anger in me, and I want to hurt them, to not disturb my meditation, which is really funny. I mean, it's sad, but it's a little crazy, because the reason why I'm meditating is that I'm trying to get to a place where I will never be angry again, and then I get angry because I misunderstand where the bad sounds come from, which is I have been disturbing others in the past with sounds. So the litmus test, the question of disliking is ignorant or not, is again related to, are you prepared to hurt someone in order to get rid of the thing? If you can overcome this tendency of disliking things ignorantly, then you reach a stage which is called Dugnel Dangdrelwa, which means no more pain at all. And that's, for most of us, for me, it's certainly nearly incredible to imagine that you could reach a state where you have no more pain at all, because we overcame ignorant disliking. So I think you get a feeling how powerful these 5 poisons are, right? Because they're not just describing the mental affliction, but they're also describing the result of fighting and overcoming them, and what will then happen to you. No more pain means we take a sip into a break. We got 3 left. The third one is called Timuk, or ignorance. And as those of you who study ACI know, of course, it's not understanding how our world really works, and not seeing that all our problems were created by being bad to people in the past. And that again implies that any situation, any problem that we are having is not other people's fault. This is all our own suffering that comes from what we have done in the past. When we can overcome that tendency, we reach Chump Topa, which means enlightenment. So really on the opposite side of ignorance is perfection and enlightenment, which I think is a very beautiful idea, that every time you fight ignorance, every time you fight the idea that the situations in your world are not caused, you fight the idea that the situations in your world are not caused by you, meaning they are caused by you. Every time you succeed a little bit, you plant seeds for your own enlightenment. And this Yang Chup Topa, achieve enlightenment, means when we stop reacting to the world as if it is coming from its own side, then you can reach this state. The fourth one is called Ngayel, which means me king or pride. And here in Buddhism we have two kinds of pride. The one is wrong pride, where you see others as lower than you yourself. Good pride is okay. Good pride is being happy and feeling proud that you've practiced Lojong, that you gave others what they wanted. But bad pride is really very dangerous for a Dharma teacher, and I've certainly observed that in myself. When you get through the ACI curriculum, you learn it and you start to realize the world comes from me, and then you meet other people, not in a Dharma class, but you know, when you're relaxing or you're going shopping or doing something normal, and you see how they are suffering. I feel in my heart, and I'm very sad about it, sometimes instead of feeling compassion, I feel this superiority a little bit. I'm thinking, oh, they don't know where the world comes from. And then that is really insane, because what you see when you look at other people is your karma. It's not some self-existent, ignorant person out there that you meet in a shopping center or at the beach. It's your karma. You constantly are being mirrored, and you get a reflection of your own past seeds. And then to be ever arrogant about your own understanding when you see other people suffering or other people not understanding the Dharma as well, is just a sign that you didn't get it at all on that level. If you can overcome this tendency of wrong pride, and the way to overcome is, it's a very beautiful sentence from Geshe-la that I haven't heard him say in that way before. You can overcome pride by thinking every being I meet has something to teach me. He said every person in New York City is there for me to learn something. And if you can think that going through Kiev, through Moscow, through Millstadt, through Almaty, through London, wherever you are, everyone that I meet has something to teach me, then it will slowly wear down our natural tendency of looking down at other people. When we succeed in that, we reach Rango Tumpa, which means totally independence. And that is amazing to realize that pride of other people stops us from having everything we need. If we overcome it, we have money, knowledge, compassion, intelligence, Dharma. We are completely self-sufficient in our own wisdom, in our own meditation, in our own morality. We can stand on our own independently as a pillar of strength. And karmically, we cannot reach that stage if we have pride. So the result of eliminating pride is to being independent and completely self-sufficient and having everything we want, which I think is a very good sales pitch to trying to stop prideful behavior, at least for me. The fifth and the last poison is called traktok, or jealousy. Traktok. It means the state of mind that cannot stand to see others get what they want. And if you have that, it creates obstacles to getting the things that you want yourself. Now, if you have bodhisattva vows, and I know many of you have, because we probably gave them to you in a ceremony, right? This is the opposite of bodhisattva attitude. When you have a bodhisattva attitude, you swear when you take the vows that you want everyone else to be happy and give them and make sure that they get everything they want and need. So jealousy is the opposite of the bodhisattva behavior. And as long as we have jealousy, we will encounter obstacles to getting the things that we want ourselves. And I believe we're not saying that in the DCI context with the 4 steps much, but I think if people would understand when they go to the nursing home, or they plant money, or they plant, I don't know, a home or car, or whatever they're planting, that jealousy is the main cause for creating obstacles to really reaching your goals, to reaching your 4 steps plan. It would be very powerful to make people aware of that. I'm not sure everyone can stop it like that, but at least you know where you have to go. When you can overcome this tendency, you reach Gek Tamche Selva, which means obstacles removed. If you eliminate jealousy, all obstacles are removed, because you will start to help others to remove their obstacles to get what they want. And from then on, everything will go very smoothly and easily for you. Now, Very last thing, there was one more thing. It's we call it ultimate reality into your practice. This is another very short lojong from our today's teacher Gyalwa Jangumpa. He's saying the reality of things is beyond the mind, so reside in a state where you hold to nothing. And that's idiom number 6, the last idiom for this class. Again, this is something that you shouldn't be teaching to new students. Only if people have studied Buddhist logic and emptiness teachings deeply for several years, they're qualified to get that lojong. Because it basically means that until the day that you see emptiness directly, you have not seen ultimate reality yet. Which is, first line, the reality of things is beyond the mind. Meaning your normal mind in a samsaric state can never see reality. When we say reality in that context, we mean ultimate reality. Of course you're perceiving a reality right now, which is deceptive reality, and that is suffering. But it doesn't mean that you're not perceiving any reality with your mind. You are experiencing your everyday world, and that things in this world function to create pain. So the lojong, the reality of things is beyond the mind, so reside in a state where you hold to nothing, does not mean it doesn't matter what you're doing. It means the opposite. And just because things are empty does not mean that they cannot function to hurt you. Quite the opposite. If you don't believe me, jump in front of a taxi and an illusionary taxi will break your illusionary legs. You will go to an illusionary hospital and get an illusionary bill which you have to pay with illusionary money. Meaning, emptiness and the reality of things that is beyond the normal state of mind means that everything you do creates a reality around us, and therefore reside in a state where you hold to nothing as being self-existent. And that's the way we should understand it. I'm very proud and happy that we could class 3 shorter than the first 2, and I'm also thinking that it will be shorter than the next ones to come. I had a look at class 4 and 5, they are pretty long. So today, thank you for your attention, but most importantly also, I wish you the ability to joyfully go through this material, do the homeworks, do the quizzes, slowly, don't just eat it down and swallow it quickly. Slowly have it in your mouth for a while, enjoy it like a good piece of chocolate, and then make it your own. Make it your own practice. Pick out these pieces. We're going to have several more lojongs and you will get lists and lists of things that you could do and take on. It's too much to do everything. But pick out some things that you enjoy and start to change the seeds so you eventually can reach freedom. That's the point of the ACI courses, and that's what Maria, I, and the team around Max and Nikita and everyone who is helping and working, it's the goal of the curators of Geshe Michael and of the lineage, and that's what we wish that may happen to you. Thank you so much for today. See you again in class 4.